Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm live with Charles Whitwam of HOWL for Wildlife. We're going to be talking all about everything that's happening in the defense of hunting in the state of Colorado and hashtag hunting is human and everything else in regards to that and conservation. So we're going to be diving in, and if you are on the Instagram live right now and you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We'll get to them as best as possible and we'll interact. But without further ado, Charles, how you doing on a Friday, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Definitely staying busy. How you doing, man? A lot of issues going on right now.
A lot of stuff to fight for. That is 100% true and accurate. So this week, HOWL's really made a splash. I love the idea. Bow hunting Arizona. Stephen Miller, who was our guest this last week on a Monday episode, he goes, we need to start saying the offense of hunting, not the defense of hunting. We need to start going on the offensive promotion. I like that. There's a lot happening in the world of hunting and conservation, and I can't believe the Netflix series Tiger King is somehow getting involved with everything and hunting and all that. So, Charles, where do you want to start?
I don't know if it's Tiger. I didn't really realize who Carol Baskin was when I first brought that up. Somebody sent it to me, and I was like, yeah, I think I'd seen her before. Now I put it together. Does she have her own show? Is that still a thing, or was that all just from Tiger King?
That was all just from Tiger King, but I'm sure that her reach has blown up since the promotion of who she was on that show.
Yeah. So thinking about just how ridiculous that is, she's a little out there, right? And what she said was so, it was just ignorant. I mean, the USDA angles and all that, but the point there is that that's went into the Denver Post. And if you know any better, maybe she made some strong points. And if you don't hear from us, that's all you're going to hear, and you're just going to have that in your head. And we have to keep that sort of in mind with everything, like everything we do from this point forward, specifically with Colorado. We have to keep in mind that we're talking to the non-hunting public, not to ourselves. It doesn't matter what we know or what we do not know. It's what they don't know and what we need them to know.
Right.
And that has to be our message. That has to be our angle. That has to be the marketing approach, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's kind of wild what she said.
When she wrote in that article, the USDA doesn't even approve that meat for eating. It's like, that is so disconnected. And we as hunters need to understand that that is non-hunting perception of, or what is it? Perception is reality.
Perception is reality. And I'm wondering, because there's some people, and I didn't realize, this has been a number of years now, but I remember going to a restaurant and they had elk on the menu, or wild pig, I think they call it that, right? And I'm like, man, where'd you get this from? Well, it's from a farm. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool, but it's not wild. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, and I'm imagining in Colorado, you can go to probably a lot of restaurants and find wild game, right? So I'm wondering if people are, oh yeah, cougar isn't on the menu. Well, neither is any wild, except for fish. Fishes, right?
Yeah.
But not game meat, not big game meat. Certainly
Right.
not ungulates or predators or whatever.
Yeah, I was at a restaurant in Colorado a week and a half ago, and I ate bison, elk, and quail. And they also served rattlesnake and a lot of other things. And it's like, okay, well, these aren't wild animals that are then being collected and served.
Sure.
So
yeah, so that's, the point there is, average Joe resident of Denver, that might be what they're thinking. So we have to know that and accept that. You can throw out all the, don't go on the attack. This just might be what they know.
Right.
So we got to address that.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think one of the things, and I mentioned this with you in a call earlier this week, is the idea that hunters notoriously don't speak up very well. And from my perspective of being a newer hunter within the most recent decade, is I always felt like I didn't have the talking points for hunting. I didn't have the knowledge of what the Pittman-Robertson Act was, or what the North American model of wildlife conservation was, or understanding that. And so therefore it's like, oh, well, I hunt because I know it's good. I know it's a circle of life. Through death brings life. All these different things that I could think of. But the general population of hunters, I'm assuming right here, might not feel comfortable speaking in that regard.
Well, hey, and I'm the same way. The only reason why I know anything is because the people I put myself in contact with. I wanted to go to the right people to, I just saw the problem that I was having personally, and I know everyone else was having it. So how do I get to the people who do know and get that information out to the masses?
Yeah.
And that's the problem they were having, right? I mean, that's the point of the meeting you're in with me the other night with a bunch of other people, was how do we get this stuff to the masses, and how do we work with the people who do know, and amplify their voice and give them support. I'm talking about like the boots on the ground, the people that have been doing this stuff for decades, fighting for what's going on in whatever state, in Colorado or whatever state. So just connecting the dots there.
Yeah.
And then bringing it to you and bringing it to me. So then, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that it makes sense. It's the other thing is hunting is so different all across the nation, and yet it's all the same, right? Underlying, it's all the same,
but we view it such as like these compartments of the greater concept of hunting. It's like, oh, bow hunting, or oh, western hunting, or predator hunting, or
Yeah.
trapping, hounding.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about this idea of redefining and being on the offensive to defining what trophy hunting is, and your mission that you guys have been doing this week as far as the promotionals.
So, trophy hunting is one of those words that has a bunch of different definitions. And I think for hunters, what trophy hunting is, we all have a different trophy, right? Mm-hmm. For some people, it's certainly the big antlers, but that's not it. Right. For some people, it's certainly, I just want to be a meat eater. I don't care, what size the animal is. They want the meat, but that's also not it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but back to the problem with trophy hunting is how the other side is deciding to define it, mm-hmm. and bring that message to the non-hunting public. Right. And that's what you see right now with the initiative. The way it's currently written, it can get changed, just to be clear, but we can get into that if you want. But the way it's currently written is it is a ban on trophy hunting. And how they are defining trophy hunting, as you can see with Carol Baskin's, for one, is that nobody eats mountain lion. People are only hunting mountain lion for the trophy.
Yeah.
And that's it. Well, that's not true at all. I mean, we've now shown probably hundreds of pictures of mountain lion cuisine. And no lie, I haven't had it yet personally. I certainly want to, but so many people have told me it's my favorite. It's actually my favorite meat of all. It's my kids. When I make, basically paraphrasing a quote, when I make mountain lion sandwiches with fries, that was one of them in the picture, that's my kids' favorite dinner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So based on what the initiative says and what the other side is saying, and they're basing it on the argument that we do not eat it, that is a lie. Mm-hmm. That is not true. A month ago in New Mexico, the guy representing Guardians for Wildlife, I think, he stood in front of the commission and said he knows very few hunters who eat bear and nobody eats mountain lion. And that's where the whole mountain lion cuisine thing started, was from that comment. And then now, a month later, here we are with Colorado. But connect those dots. Also, it's very important. What's going on in Colorado is going on. The tentacles are everywhere.
Yeah,
it's not just Colorado's issue. It's all of our issue.
Can I?
So when we did the thing with trophy hunting, I want to know what your trophy is, and I don't care what it is. It's your statement, and all of them have been incredible. They've been incredible.
Yeah,
it's been big animals, meat, nature connection. A get away from the distractions. You name it. I mean, we have probably 1,000 of them now that I've posted, and that I think is a great message. It's an emotional message of truth, and showing the pictures of people's faces, to give them that kind of human element of, hey, this isn't true, and this is our story, and we're real people, and these are firemen, doctors, teachers, whatever. This is everybody. It's humanity. Right. That's hunting is human. Right. Hunting is intrinsically human. It's instilled in us.
Yeah.
We've done it forever. No one had a problem with it until 50 years ago.
Right.
So.
Right. It's fascinating. So hitting on the topic of like, what is a trophy? I'm going to read off the 7 principles of the North American model of wildlife conservation as per the fishandwildlife.org. So obviously different things are translated or verbalized in different manners. But I want everyone on this podcast and on the Instagram Live to hear this. And so when we talk about North American model of wildlife conservation, they can actually recite it, because the First Amendment and the freedom of speech is going to be the biggest tool for us to overcome and defeat the people who are trying to take away the things that we love and hold so dear. So it says in the United States and Canada, the model operates on 7 independent principles. Number 1, wildlife resources are conserved and held in trust for all citizens. Meaning, if I own 10 acres and animals come on that 10 acres, I don't own the animals. It's in trust of the government, and then we have a tag specific to that animal rather than having to shoot whatever we want within our boundaries of our property. Number 2, commerce in dead wildlife is eliminated. There's no sale of wild game. We can't sell the meat. So that already defeats that statement of what Carol Baskin said, where it's like, well, cougar meat, it's not USDA approved. Well, you actually can't sell wildlife meat. Number 3, wildlife is allocated according to democratic rule of law. So understanding how the people represent and give their opinion as far as wildlife conservation and commissions and boards and all that. Number 4, wildlife, and this is the one that I want to hit really, really hard, is wildlife may only be killed for a legitimate, non-frivolous purpose. And this is something that we really need to identify and speak to, because what is legitimate? What is non-frivolous? What do we as predator hunters and managing the ungulate population and all that, how does that fall into the defense or offense of promoting hunting and making sure that the non-hunters understand that? Number 5, wildlife is an international resource. Number 6, every person has an equal opportunity under the law to participate in hunting and fishing. And number 7, scientific management is the proper means for wildlife conservation. So 2 of those were ones that I think really need to be addressed, especially in this whole Colorado debate of cougars and bobcats, and even lynx. And they threw in lynx as like this emotional attachment because you can't even hunt lynx. It's a federally protected animal.
Yeah, and that was another thing in that video, or maybe it was in a written statement. No, she made a video also about that some hunters are killing endangered species. Well, if that's true, that's a poacher. That's illegal. And I can't forget this. In most states, but definitely in Colorado, since we're talking about Colorado, it is a state law to take all edible meat from all game species, and that includes mountain lion. So, but it's also important to understand in Colorado, somebody can go to the title board and say, I don't like Coors Light, and make that and so anybody can say anything they want, basically, is what I mean.
Yeah.
They gather the right amount of signatures and all that. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's legitimate. It could be, you can just pull it right out of your butt and, hey, I want to have this on the ballot. Yep. But as far as legitimacy of what they're saying, it's not whatsoever to start with.
Yeah.
If you do not take the meat out from a lion, which everybody loves to eat, and some people it's their favorite meat, you are breaking the law. Mm-hmm. Let's just start right there.
Right. You're talking about a criminal act as per written in state law per Colorado.
Yeah.
100%. Florida lead slinger outdoors said the part about being upheld by democratic rule of law should be rewritten to constitutionally protected right if of the people of the nation.
So that's if you can get a right to hunt in a state, that certainly furthers that. Now, understand the North American model it has no legal basis.
Yeah.
It is an idea and it's an example, right? So they can't be upheld in court. It's been kind of what has made sense for our country and what has been at the foundation of much of the success, but it has no legal basis. So we can then, many states, I can't remember how many now, quite a few.
I think it's like 37 or something like that.
I think it's in the 30s, have the right to hunt and fish, or either or. California, we have a right to fish, not a right to hunt. But extremely important to get that, and also to further kind of solidify those laws, where it also protects methods of take.
What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
Because you could get rid of all types of hunting and only have, say, rifle hunting available. Well, technically, that's still, you still can hunt. Mm-hmm. And so it's also important to really get those things down pat, and that needs to be a huge push by us, by everybody, the whole community, to get more right to hunt and fish in states and have it written correctly as well, to protect the things we're facing that we're talking about right now.
It's truly fascinating that in like California, the government, or however it's represented, because it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, but yet they will say, okay, you have the right to fish, but you don't have the right to hunt. So you have the right to have sushi, but you don't have the right to have a steak, more or less.
That's interesting, because that's all this really boils down to. I don't know what percentage of people eat meat, but it's the most. It's a high percentage. What is it? 90? Can I safely say 90% of people probably eat meat?
Yeah.
What is it that we're doing differently? We are going out and finding the best meat. But I don't know if the public understands that. Back to this whole trophy hunting thing, and hunters don't eat the meat of this or that or whatever else. I'm not quite sure everybody really understands that. I don't understand. In fact, I'm positive they don't understand that. Mm-hmm. But what's the difference? You went and an animal died that somebody else killed, a cow, and you have a steak or sushi or whatever it is. And an animal died, these animals behind me, that I went and hunted. And it doesn't matter, but generally with a bow and arrow, I just think that's, for me, I like that better. And I got the meat from it. And I took it back to my house, and now that's what I'm eating. That's what this boils down to.
Right. It's mind-boggling. The other thing, and Stephen Miller out of Arizona, Bow Hunting AZ, he just said, I wonder if they'd say you can catch and release only, but not harvest for consumption. Similar to fishing, like, oh, you can fish, catch and release. Like what? Like, because we gotta wordsmith and twist it back on them to what they're doing to us, right?
Well, that actually brings up houndsmen to me. So there's a process here. There's some smart people on the other side, I'll tell you what. But if you're running dogs, that's actually the only form of catch and release hunting that there is. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be sure, without a doubt, when you tree an animal, that animal meets the criteria that you want. So if it's a sow, you'll know it. If it's a lactating sow, you'll know it. If it has cubs, you're going to know it. If it's a mature male, you're going to know it.
Yeah.
But what has happened in states, and it's this just, death by 1,000 cuts, in states where that's been outlawed, they're now saying, well, we need to outlaw this because you guys can't possibly tell what a sow is, or if a sow has cubs, or if it's a mature, by spot and stalk hunting or whatever method we're allowed to do it. And I'm like, well, hold on, because you're making the case to bring back hounds.
Uh-huh.
They're smart. Okay. And so That's why I'm all for that. And I don't think people really get that either. And there's arguments that can be made, and I won't get into this. I'll just make the point. The same thing with hunting over bait is the animal comes in and it's there, you're not trying to cut it off, or you're not trying to get like a 3-second window to hunt this animal. The animal comes into bait and you can tell exactly what it is. You have time to make that decision. It's an interesting debate.
Yeah, you get to evaluate what you're going to take and consume in that regard, right?
Yeah.
It just
a lot of details.
right, specifically with deer or elk or ungulates, it just happens to be that the ones with the biggest antlers typically also have the biggest bodies, right?
The most meat.
And so it's like, oh, well, okay, you're only shooting that because it had a monster rack. Well, age equates to larger body as well.
Yeah, but this is instilled in humans in any. I mean, we have the Olympics, or we have just regular intramural sports. Everyone wants to do the best they can. Everybody wants to overcome the largest challenge that they can.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that equates into hunting. If you're out there, especially if you have a ton of time to hunt, you can spend the entire month of September passing animals because you want to challenge yourself to get the most mature bull elk that's out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That crosses over to all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the best you can. You want to achieve the highest goal. But that doesn't mean you're not taking the meat out just because you went for the biggest one.
Yeah.
In fact, you have to take it out. But it's beyond you have to. Who the heck doesn't want to take it out? I mean, and for what we do, 4.5 miles back in some crazy canyon that, you got 4 avalanches to cross or whatever, and you're packing this meat out on your back. I mean, we're putting a lot of work into that. Mm-hmm. Most people, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing.
It's such a fascinating topic. I created that graphic that has been making its way around this week on social media. First they came for the trappers, and I did not speak out because I was not a trapper. Then they came for the houndsmen, and I did not speak out because I was not a houndsman. Then they came for the predator hunters, and I did not speak out because I was not a predator hunter. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Signed, every hunter and outdoorsman. It has been everywhere, and I think that's like a big wake-up call of like, oh my gosh, you know what? You're right. And we have been trained as society to not speak about money, religion, and politics, but politics, ultimately, those 3 things, but politics specifically, is what frames our foundation of how we are and how we view the world. And if hunting is being battled as a political topic, we need to understand our stance. If Abraham Lincoln said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. We need to start understanding how to talk about this in a political manner, because it is a political fight.
It's a political fight, but it's a culture war, right? Mm-hmm. What you said is completely right on. For anybody like, I don't want to get involved in that because, well, if you consider this nation great in the experiment of all the other experiments that have happened, it's not perfect, and it never is going to be perfect. There is no perfectness here. But for a society to have come together and accomplish what it has accomplished, it certainly took those. It took those people that spoke out, and carried that torch, right? And this, you can certainly equate that here as well. You can make that comparison 100%. I think Sue Tidwell, I just saw it for a second. She always has an interesting. Can you read hers? Can you find that?
Yeah, she's actually made quite a few different comments in here.
So she said something about, isn't it better to take out a mature male?
Yeah, it says she said. Sue Tidwell said, isn't it better to target an old male who has lived a full life?
So, I know she has a ton of experience in Africa. If I remember correctly, she was against hunting to some level, went to Africa with her husband, and it changed her life. I mean, she's writing books and everything about this. So specific to that would be, you know, let's say an old rhino who is past basically, breeding age and is killing the younger rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
And a situation in Africa where the money that goes through hunting, and it's always called trophy hunting, is why these animals still exist. Yep. I mean, it's so case in point there, and I think it's very it really sheds light on this whole topic when you look at Africa. But I think that's what she's getting at there. But no, she's right on, 100%.
Yeah.
And somebody just said the old rhinos kill the younger ones. Yes, Sue. Yeah. So she's got a book out also. Cries of the Savannah. I think it's incredible.
She actually just shout out to Sue. Thank you for offering this up. Earlier on in the comments, she wrote, let's see here, scrolling up to it, something about regarding talking points, etc., and reaching non-hunters. If you know of any officials that will benefit from Cries of the Savannah, I will give a free code for the audiobook. Powerful. Sue, I would love to get a code for that because I'd love to hear your book. So, so Charles, let's talk about this idea of defining trophy hunting on our terms. We covered it briefly here at the beginning of this, but if we can redefine that, does it break down some barriers for the domino effect of multiple states to help us out in regards to that? Or do we still battle the grizzly fight of reintroduction of those in the state of Washington and whether they're delisted or not?
So, I know. I know that if I get 10 people in a room and I'm able to share the stories of people, there's going to be more that come out of the room than on our side than went into the room. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but I 100% know. I know that if people watch, it's just in like film, what are they called? Film contest or whatever. I don't even know what they're called, but Robbie at Blood Origins has this movie called Lionheart, and I've been privileged to see it, and it's making its way around at film festivals and possibly winning. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, however you feel about hound hunting going in, you're going to feel differently coming out, and we're going to have more on our side coming out. Mm-hmm. What I also know is that if this ballot initiative passes in Colorado, they have laid the groundwork, and they will know exactly what money to spend and how to do it and what messaging to use in other states. So we have to look at that and match that and say, if we beat it here, we also know how to beat it in these other states. And by then we will have grown into something much greater than we are now.
Yeah.
Right. And you brought up Washington. I don't know when you want to get to that, but
well, we'll get to that here in just a second. I want to clarify something real quick that people might not know. This bill in Colorado has actually been voted down through the legislative process previously, but now it's gone to I'm drawing a blank, where you get enough signatures to now have it be pushed through in a different manner. Is that correct?
So it's a ballot initiative. Yeah. So it's been defeated, I believe, over the last 5 years, maybe more.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer, or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hardside hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And We also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
I mean, it was when HOWL started in 2021. Yeah, not quite 2 years yet. That was, I think, our second action was, it's the exact same language, and it was going through the legislature. And that was defeated. And to this day, it was one of our largest actions as far as people taking part in it, right? And that was defeated. And so now that language they're just going to go, well, we're going to bring it to the people. Well, they brought wolves in. And I want to be clear, I have nothing against wolves or grizzly bear. What I do have a problem with is the language that is used to the public on why the wolves need to be brought in. But then there is also a black hole of deficiency on management. There's no management language at all. There's no, okay, what happens when there's 1,000 wolves in Colorado? Well, the people who wrote it, their statements are, we'll have as many wolves as elk they can eat. Their interests lie somewhere else, and if you want to continue seeing the numbers of elk that are in Colorado or any other ungulate, those wolves are going to have a tremendous effect on it. And if there's no management plan there, what's going to happen here? Now, that's another way it's a great way to get rid of hunting, or at least vastly reduce it. That's a tactic. Bring in more predators, restrict hunting of predators. And then what's that going to do to the hunting community? Right. That's very smart. It's extremely smart. So, that's where I take issue with those kind of hot button issues. Is don't ever introduce, like in Washington, there's a grizzly bear reintroduction open comment period right now. I'm like, no way. There's already grizzly in Washington, but for humans to bring them into a state that can't manage and is on the verge of taking away even more predator hunting than they already just have, no, that's not a good idea. I don't trust it. And plus, in states where the grizzly bear numbers are exponentially above what the recovery numbers are, like Montana, because this is a Fed issue, right? They're still not delisted. So I have a tremendous lack of trust in that.
Right.
That's my problem with it. I don't have a problem with grizzly bear. And I don't, I see, some articles or pictures or whatnot of a grizzly bear attack this person or that. I wouldn't, me personally, I don't want to use that as fear mongering on why you shouldn't bring in grizzly bears, because, hey, that's just, if you're going to be in grizzly bear country, you better be ready. Yeah. And a grizzly bear is a completely different animal. That's a monster.
Well,
very different.
Can I throw an anecdote into this? Is my very first kill was a black bear kill 9 miles in the backcountry. I was hunting and had a female yoga instructor from Seattle and her 2 male students and their dog day hike 9 miles in, and that's an 18-mile round trip. Why I bring this up in regards to grizzly bears is because I was black bear hunting, and they made it up there, and they saw us in camo, and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, we're hunting. Oh, what are you hunting? Bears. And all of a sudden it was like, you can hunt bears? And beyond that, they said, there's bears here? And I was blown away. Like, it just goes to show, and people don't have these types of interactions on a daily basis to remind them and refresh them that there is such a disconnect from the people like us that pursue our lives to be in the wild versus the people that aren't ever in the wild, or they go there infrequently enough to you know, experience it one time a year or 2 times a year type thing. And in that lies a huge problem.
In a report from our biologists in California, it's going to come out shortly. Maybe not officially until the spring, but from what I've heard, they've essentially confirmed that there's 70,000 bear in California now, and this is a multi-year study of data collection. Before that, it was somewhere around 35,000 is what they thought. And when Huxwrx came last year to try and shut down black bear hunting for the second year in a row, I think they claimed it was something like there was only 16,000 bear, and climate change is reducing their numbers. And our biologists and commission just shut that completely right down with the science that they had. They didn't know that they were doing this data collection and this science. They didn't know that that was ongoing, and it was tremendous to watch. But that's in a small setting, in a focused setting with people who are paying attention. This is why they bring these things to the ballot, because they're like, all right, well, it's going to be a lot harder for the public to hear this information and sit in and listen to all the facts, but we can just lie to them and we can deceive them. And then through ballot box, wildlife management, whatever you want to call it, we can effectively change, these laws and these rules how we want it, and continue fundraising and making billions of dollars on emotions.
Yeah. And they play such a long game as well. And that is,
yes, they do.
It's
we have to learn from that.
Yeah, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I heard the latest podcast that was talking about this initiative in Colorado. I went to howl.org and I did my action center. I did my part. And then out of sight, out of mind. And now it's like, oh, I haven't been to the action center in a couple months or 6 months or a year. And we need to play the long game as hunters and start, learn from the other side, use their tactics and apply it. They've been successful. So let's turn the tide on them.
We have to protect our way of life for as long as each of us are alive. It's protecting your way of life. It's certainly not going to our site and taking action. And I mean, that it has a tremendous effect in that space, but there's so much more to it. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's us and plenty of other individuals and orgs that are working on exactly how to do that. How do we have this sea change, almost like a revolution on how we go about this and how we reach people, and putting aside, and having money for the non-hunting public campaigns. That's insanely important. There was just almost $975,000 was raised in the last, well, if I was talking to you on Monday, in the last 10 days to save the bighorn sheep in Vail. Mm-hmm. And it was basically to kind of meet the gap between what the county could provide for the land they had to buy for their wintering grounds and the city. And the community came together and raised almost $1 million in 10 days. Wow. For this. So when we're focused and we have the right people involved, we can do this. And we must do this for all of the issues, and mainly especially the really big ones that are coming down the pipe, and meet that with the same vigor. Mm-hmm. and do what's right with it.
Yeah. So Colorado, you said, was going to be a giant domino. It's if they get this, God forbid that they get this through, it will then be finding a weak spot in our armor, and they're going to now stick the knife in and twist and take that state to state. What are the other states that were facing issues currently, and then what do you see is the long game for them? Like, where are they going to next?
Well, the other states with this issue would be New Mexico. Arizona defeated it quite tactfully a few years ago. California would be bear. they did mountain lion in the late 70s or something, early 80s, I think. I think it was Ronald Reagan who signed it, actually. Oregon and Washington. Yeah. And that, yes, it's a domino. It's I like the die is cast if this, I mean, this sets the roadmap for them on what they need to do. And then it's going to be, you know, if we lose it, it's going to be a huge blow, and people will get disenfranchised. And I'm not looking at it that way. We're not going to lose it. We're going to raise, you know, $25 million and spend it in the right places and get people to the scene like it has never been seen before.
Yeah.
You know, it really needs to be a revolution of thought.
Yeah.
It's complete sea change.
That's exactly
everybody, all hands on deck.
I was just about to say. So Red the Aviator commented, he goes, I have had hunters tell me that they think it doesn't matter because of our reps already have their minds made up. So why would I take action? My thing is
that's not true.
No, it's not true. Number two, that's a victim mentality. We get to create the life that we want, and we get to fight for it, right? If you're constantly rolling over because you say, oh, I have no power, I have no role, this doesn't affect me, I'll wait for somebody else to speak up, then yeah, you're going to get steamrolled. But the minute that we are joining forces, taking stands, squeaky wheel gets the grease, there's a reason why that is a true saying, and we start being actively engaged, speaking up, it will change. And we've been too lazy to be like, oh, well, letting our anger get the best of us. And, you know.
Well, there's many examples. There's many examples where this isn't, so to be clear, this has not, Colorado right now has nothing to do with legislators or reps. They're not making the decision on this. This is a ballot initiative. So going to your congressman or senator, meaningless. The battle is with how is the public, the general public, going to vote here, right? Mm-hmm. So that's completely different. But there's tons of examples on how reps and senators and congressmen or whoever it is have changed their mind based on public outreach. And what we have to do continually is not just have sportsmen involved. We need to somehow get the general public to support what it is we're doing, not that they should become hunters, but that they see the value in what it is we're doing. And you can look at conservation, you can look at, you know, we're feeding ourselves. You can look at management of whatever species it is. They have to understand the importance of that. So when they do go out hiking and they want to continue to see all wildlife and butterflies and everything else that all the money goes to, it's not just wildlife, mm-hmm. that so much of that comes from us. So, and he's just asking the question, I think. I don't think he was making that statement. He's just asking that question because that's what a lot of people say all the time.
Right.
So, you know, we got to really think big here mm-hmm. on what it is that we have to do.
Florida Lead Slinger Outdoors says, so then how do we as hunters show non-hunters that hunting is beneficial to everyone? That's what we're working on. That's why we're redefining what trophy hunting is. You know, if you're talking about the meat being beneficial to your life to somebody who doesn't eat meat, that doesn't resonate with them. So what does resonate with them? You know, the idea of finding common ground with someone. I'm a school teacher. I have a student. They're not understanding my concept. So how do I meet them where they are so that they understand the concepts in which I'm sharing with them to make a personal connection in their own life, and that way they can draw a better understanding?
I don't like math. I can't stand it, but I 100% appreciate the importance of the engineers and the mathematicians and the astronomers, you know, everybody that is involved in what they provide to society, because they love that.
Yeah.
So we can look at it that way, right? And we could show, you know, conservation success stories over the last 100 years we can show how it's instilled in human. Not everybody was always a hunter.
Right.
Through all of history, everybody always had different skills, but the hunters were a part of that village, right? Were part of that tribe, and they brought importance to that tribe. And still, most people eat meat, and I give a lot of wild game meat to anybody who wants it freely, and they love it because, like, well, this is good. And I'll teach them how to cook it, or I'll give them a Hank Shaw book or whatever, so they can make amazing meals out of this amazing food. And then they're sitting there like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, this is a wild animal that, from they can come here and look at it, or they can watch one of my videos or something. Like, wow, I never thought of it that way. You're not doing that with the cows you're eating.
Yep.
It's a completely different level of connection and interception and everything of the whole process.
Yeah.
And if we can show them that, it goes a long way. And Blood Origins does a fantastic job at that through the video content. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
They're powerful.
They're getting it down. The one they just released today, the Heart, our Heart, I think is what it's called. Man, that's gonna be a template for Colorado for sure.
A lot of people seeing this is getting a lot of comments in the sections. We're battling two things. Number one, we have to make a personal connection with people. Facts and figures don't necessarily make personal connections. Stories do.
Yeah.
The whole idea of what hunting is to tell a good story, because that's captivating. That's connection that engages. And the other thing is that we have to do is we have to beat the algorithms of social media and media, right? Because the algorithms of the toxic society that we're in is constantly pointing us and directing us and steering us to certain areas, and to stay in that, we have to then beat that algorithm by acting, being, talking, showing up in a different manner than what we've always done. Definition of insanity: doing what you always do and expecting a different result. We have to change so that we get a different result.
I can boost most of our posts on Instagram because of the messaging we use and the pictures we do use and the pictures we don't. Now, I know that's not for everybody. There's certainly ways to do it. 100%. Just to like, you were hitting me with something that I work with all the time there on exactly how to do that. But I think overall what you're saying is, our message, how do we get that out to the right people? Well, I think that's what's happening. I think that's what's happening right now. That's the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get the brightest minds, the best people, all under one roof and come up with the best solutions?
Yeah.
We're not stupid people. There isn't a lack of money. It's the implementation. It's setting these things into action and writing out the roadmap of, do we have this? Do we have this? Do we have this? Do we have this? And how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
It's strategy. And what's cool is we can only go up because we haven't really tried it, right? So we can only get more people on our side. And I think with this type of messaging, we're not going to get less. No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're gonna, there's gonna be people who look at this. Yesterday it happened. It doesn't happen a lot, but last night some people got on. I've now actually reported them and deleted them because the comments were, I'm like, who's this coming from? But it was all emotions. I mean, I'm like, this is your debate. You're calling me a bloodthirsty murderer, and they're spelling everything wrong. And like, I would go back with him with a real response, and I wasn't getting angry at all. And it's just like, next topic. I'm like, you can't stick to your own convictions here. Mm-hmm. Like, so there's always going to be that, but that is not the main people we are dealing with. That's the fringe. But the fringe is really, 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 really good at reaching the general public and giving them the message of what we are.
Yeah.
And we are really, 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 really bad at reaching the general public and giving them any message
Right.
at all, unless they turn on the hunting TV, but that's for us.
Right.
Right? That's all marketed for us. So, and there's nothing wrong with it. I have no problem with it. I get it. But there's other things we need to do.
You live in California, correct?
I do currently. Yeah.
So you're familiar with Les Schwab tires.
Yeah.
I always bring this up when I talk to non-hunters or people. It's like, what is Les Schwab's biggest sale of the year?
Sale?
Yeah, like when they do like their biggest, hey, we are doing this sale on tires. You buy a set of tires and you get this.
I don't know. I don't really watch TV.
They give so this resonated with me as a small child, and I didn't even start hunting until I was in my 30s. They give away.
Well, I'm not from California, so Les Schwab's fairly new to me. But yeah,
they give away meat. Buy a set of tires and get beef. That's like one of their biggest sales of the year. Is
really?
Yes. And
wow,
that always resonated with me. It's like, wow, you'll not only are you helping people out on the road, but you're also feeding families.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the difference between that and a food donation center where you can go pick up meat or pick up groceries or whatever? It's like, dude, we're just providing for ourselves.
That's interesting, because on that topic, I've been really exploring how to kind of do just that. I need to, there's hunters helping the hungry in a bunch of different states and programs like that. We don't have that in California. I'm not sure why. But I can give meat away, right? And I've done things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to, if it makes sense, I would like to come up with a program like that where people can come just get wild game if they want and have different places where they can just get it. But I think something like that would go a long way.
Yeah.
Actually, it's been something I've actually been thinking about quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never seen that from Les Schwab though. I mean, I see their stores or whatever, but that's cool.
Yeah, that was something that really resonated me as a non-hunter. So I was just a non-hunter 9 years ago. It's not like, I've been at this forever. I was that position in the middle that could be persuaded. Tell me your story. Whatever one is going to connect with me the most, I can go this way. But then I experienced hunting, and that transformed my life.
Right.
Flat
right.
out.
I love the perspective. I love working with people who haven't been hunters all their lives, because the angle, the perspective, it's always different and it's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard for us to be fresh all the time. I mean, I grew up with it. My first memory, I think is my first memory. It's not really hunting, but it was slaughtering chickens or whatever, or seeing that done or whatever. So it's I have a completely different sort of mindset on these things or whatever. So I love when we have what are they called, late onset hunters or whatever. I love that perspective, and I think having those people involved can possibly go a little bit further, actually.
Yeah.
Because they understood it more of where they were before and where they are now.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. You get to see where you're going, where you're coming from, and what you want. Identify what it is that you want. Being a school teacher, I work in a discipline school where if you're closer to going to jail, and a lot of my students, I have students in jail or have ankle monitors, rather than I'm not general population, and they get to understand the concept of ownership and what they want. It's like, what do you want? Do you want to go to jail? Because your choices and your actions are leading you to this. Do you want to be successful? Do you want money? Do you want power? Do you want, like, whatever it is you want, you always get it, because if you want it bad enough, you go for it. So my call to action to hunters is, how bad do you want hunting to last for generations? Do you want it to last for generations, or are you only concerned about yourself? And through an inherently selfish act of hunting, we get to be selfless and share that with our families, our communities, and all that. My big thing would be to, what is it that you're willing to actually fight for? What is it? Is it Second Amendment? Is it vaccines? Is it when they come after your family, your jobs? Like, identify
Yeah.
it. How powerful is hunting to your life?
And I think our challenge as a community is, how do we activate those people and giving them something to do effectively?
Yes.
Because it's certainly not just sharing stuff between hunters. It helps. I think it sort of makes the bubble a little bigger, but we got to think way bigger than that. So giving people the avenue is very important, because everybody, I think, wants to do something, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Or it's limited, or it's very limited on what they can do. So that's a part of the challenges.
Yeah.
How do we broaden that?
That bow hunting AZ, I don't think most hunters know where the line in the sand really is for them. Hence why they lost trail cams in Arizona. Great, like, inward reflection leads to outward correction. You need to know what you stand for and where your boundaries are, so that you know where, like, what's going to get you going, what's going to get you started a fire. Brother, I am just so grateful that you took the time to join for this Instagram Live podcast. For the sake of time, I got to get wrapping up. But what calls to action do you have, or what can people do who hear this podcast and all that, or anything else you want to share?
Well, I have to talk about Washington. And I could talk for an hour, but so there's so much going on in Washington, and basically you have kind of alluded to it with the grizzly bear situation, but you have a commission with certain commission members, and there are ties to Colorado, by the way. This is a whole different podcast, but certain commission members who are twisting and turning and manipulating science and best available science, and well, we need better science, even though the department is giving them their science, but they're not happy with that either, but they can't give an example of what the science is. They're trying to get to something else. They got rid of spring bear hunting. Now, some of them coming into the meeting, you knew where they stood from previous engagements or previous positions that they've held, or statements or whatever. And then you have some who start taking words like recreational and saying, well, recreational hunting, that doesn't mean management to me, even though it's spelled out in their mandate. What recreational hunting is, it's an action. It means us, we're recreational hunters, because we're not market hunters, right?
It devalues it as a lifestyle and as a sustenance creating source.
Yeah. So the commissioner said, well, I need to see a management reason for recreational hunting. I'm like, well, hold on. You can apply that to every single species, because it's recreational hunters who are doing this, who are going out and doing this. So now, are we losing it all? Watch your words. And there's no clear answer on that. There's a draft conservation policy that they're calling it. And a lot of people have a big issue with this. On paper, when you look at it, it might not stand out, but we have to hold them accountable for previous statements, for previous comments, for previous decisions. And when you come out with a new draft conservation policy, I'm not going to trust what that means, because some of the commissioners have said we really need to start looking at mountain lion seasons and reducing that, or maybe bear overall. And how is this draft conservation policy? What I'm thinking, how are you going to use that to get there?
Right.
They've started to twist the North American model on us. They brought in John Oregon, who was an editor of the North American model, along with Valerius Geist and Shane Mahoney, who authored it. They brought in John Oregon. It wasn't really issue based, like he wasn't asked what are his feelings on spring bear or whatever. But he gave I think, an excellent presentation of what it was. And commissioners afterwards spoke. Lorna Smith said that she feels like the North American model is embedded into their overall policy, which is interesting to hear
Mm-hmm.
from her. Commissioner Rowland took issue, and this is important, took issue with when John Organ used the word surplus wildlife. And she said, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm paraphrasing, maybe. This makes me uncomfortable. What if we said surplus humans? Like, what did she do there?
Yeah.
She just gave human value to wildlife.
Yep.
So if you don't know what her intentions are, you know them now.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's scary. That's this whole thing in Washington is very hard to, like, I can't put it in a 30-second clip. I wish I could.
Yeah.
But I've been there for so many meetings, and there's so many things going on, and there's more than that. But it's very, very important for us to pay attention to what's going on there and get involved where we can.
Do you mind if I
Yeah.
jump in for a second? What I'm gathering from you and what I need to share, what I feel compelled to share with the listeners and people who are on this, is verbiage matters.
Oh,
The verbiage we use. So there was a bill in the state of Washington, I believe 2 years ago, where they wanted to make the laws for hunting with dogs based off of human feelings, human sensations. Like, how could you put your dog in cold, icy water when you wouldn't yourself go in there? And they attributed human pain to animal suffering. And so this is why the power of words and speaking and the verbiage in which we use is so critical for each and every moment, not just hunting, but just everything in life.
no, you're exactly right. And I have to bring up one other statement there. One of the commissioners in a podcast with me said that she's basing decisions off of polls. That is not science.
Right.
And it's, so whoever shows up, whoever decides to take part of the poll, that's what we're basing this on. And in John Organ's presentation, he said it is not to be based off of a poll or a survey. And I don't think he knew she had said that, but it was really interesting that he brought that up. That's not science, and it's not our science against their science. I'm looking for where is the science exactly, because you have been presented it and you've gone against it. Your own. What sucks is, everyone that's important here can't speak up because they work for the department. There's an issue going on with Catalina Island in California right now, and the people who know the most about it, they can't speak up because they work for the Conservancy. I hate that. Mm-hmm. I hate that. So I needed to touch on Washington because that's also ground zero.
Well, I will say this. I'm a personal friend of Greg Anderson, and he was a police officer from Seattle that spoke up during the lockdowns of 2020, saying, how can you police officers uphold these standards across America and yet go out and do this type of stuff? And he ended up getting fired from his job and having more success outside of that job in other areas because of him taking a stand for something. So I'm not going to cast judgment on these people that work for organizations, but ultimately you can't sit silent. There's got to be a line in the sand where it's like, this is it, people. And
you're speaking the truth there, believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're definitely speaking the truth.
Charles, what are some calls to action that you specifically could use from people? Are you still looking for people to send in their word statements of what they view as trophy and redefining that? Or what do you want from listeners right now?
Yeah, we can do that. So we have actions, and go to the Action Center, howlforwildlife.org. We have actions for Washington and even Canada right now. The grizzly bear introduction. We just finished up the Vail issue. There's no Colorado issue. No Colorado. There's a Colorado issue. There's no Colorado action. Okay. So if you see an action out there where somebody wants to take action, there's nothing to do. They got to go through the title board and then get the signatures. And I want to make this clear. Anybody who wants to know the most about Colorado, get in touch with Dan Gates. Dan Gates with Coloradoans for Responsible Wildlife Management. He is the guy to get on a podcast. He needs to be on all podcasts He knows this up and down. He's been doing it for decades. And I know I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Since we're in a media war and have an issue with getting our statements out there, he 100% needs to be on Joe Rogan. He has a bigger audience than CNN, right? That's what I hear.
Yeah.
That's the level that this needs to be brought to. This is, I think, in my opinion, the playbook. We're seeing it play out for the end of hunting. So it's not a Colorado issue. It's your issue. It's everybody's issue.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he knows the most about this by far of what's going on. He's the guy to reach out to. And I'm just saying that because that's the best thing to do.
Can you say that one more time? So Dan Gates and who is he with?
CRWM, Coloradoans for Responsible Wildlife Management.
Okay.
They're on Instagram. Their website is just type in Coloradoans for Responsible Wildlife Management.
Okay.
You'll find him. He is the person to talk to on this and really break down these issues.
Okay. Awesome.
Everything I've told you, I'm getting he connects the dots for me. So, back to the people that I work with the people who have the best information, and that's what we're bringing to you.
Perfect. I love it. Charles, we could keep this podcast going forever. We are going to actually start doing more consistent follow-ups with you and putting out the word. This podcast is actually going to be released this coming Monday. What is that? Monday the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Monday the 9th of October. And we'll be doing a check-in later on with that. Guys, go get involved. And it starts with you and your community. Don't think that you're too small of a fish in a pond of that it's just monstrous. Every bit helps. Everything starts. If you don't speak up now and you're waiting for other people to speak up, they're going to be at your doorstep before long, and no one's going to be there to speak for you. So go check out howl.org, support them, become a member if you want to. At least go get involved in the Action Center, start talking about it, making it common conversation, not just something that gets brought up when you're around a comfortable crowd, right? We can't be afraid of engagement with the other side, if you want to call it that regards. So, brother, so honored. Thank you for your time. Guys, thank you for being a part of this Instagram Live and podcast. If you want to know more about that, go check out howl.org. You can also go to soulseekersnation.com and find out more about our mission of mentorship as conservation. Go check out all the content that we're pushing out on Carbon TV. And be blessed, everybody. Be of good cheer. Know that life is happening for you. This is an opportunity for you to grow as a human being and for you to grow and leave your legacy on this world, whether it's to defend hunting or defend your lifestyle. It's all important. Be blessed, everybody. And as always, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship as conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.